Right, guys, thanks ever so much for coming. First thing I do, really appreciate it. And obviously there's a lot of people here involved with the Cornermen and in various ways, from sponsoring it to using it to, just generally giving us a bit of support. And so we thought what we'd do is we're just going to want to give a little talk, me and Steve. We'll only be 10, 15 minutes.
Yes, completely unprepared.
Yeah. We just want to tell you a little bit about, as I've already alluded to, the story goes that, Steve came to me one day and said, I really think you should start a band. And
no, I didn't. Clear about that.
No, that's a different story maybe. So where the Cornermen came out of is, I suppose, after lockdown, we came back, and I noticed a lot of guys at the gym were coming up to me and saying that they were struggling with different things, with depression or PTSD or various things, and it just seemed to be more open conversations than before, or maybe people were suffering from more than before, I don't know. But one thing that struck me was a lot of guys said that coming to the gym and talking, as we did the pads and all that sort of thing, had kept them going through these sort of life crises that had hit them, whether it was business failures or marriage breakdowns or various other things. And so I kind of thought, well, maybe we've got something here, maybe there's something in this. And Steve was a long-term member of the gym. That's not a reflection on the gym, by the way. Imagine what he'd look like if he wasn't a member of any gym. So, Steve was
going back, don't worry.
Steve was a long-term member of the gym, and I knew that he worked for Emmaus, and I knew that he, was involved in support work. So I approached him and I said, Steve, what do you think? Is there any way we can formalise this, professionalise this, do something with it? And Steve said, I've actually been thinking exactly the same thing myself. He said there was a guy stabbed at the end of my road the other day. Was it? Wasn't you? Was it?
Shh, John.
Okay.
No comment.
And for various things, Didcot's growing massively. The whole area is growing massively, putting in loads of housing. The infrastructure isn't there and the support services aren't there. So, I would like to do something. I'd like to come away from Emmaus. He's been at Emmaus for about 10 years, and I'd like to set something up around here. So we put our heads together and thought, what could we do? And we thought, well, the first thing we need to do is kind of utilise what we've got already. So we've got the boxing club, we've got a community, we've got a space, and we've got something that seems to be working in the boxing training in a way, it seems to be working, it seems to be helping people. So we thought, how can we formalise this? So we came up with the idea of the Cornermen. And the idea of the Cornermen, the philosophy behind the Cornermen was the analogy, and why we called it the Cornermen is that life's a fight. At the end of the day, you're the only person in the fight. Only you can fight that fight. But you can have a respite from that fight when you can go back and see your Cornerman. Your Cornerman could give you advice about what to do, how to stay in the fight, how to avoid problems, how to deal with the problems you're having, and then you're back out and you're in the fight. So it's not taking responsibility for that way, it's just trying to give you a bit of guidance. And to stretch that analogy a bit, obviously having been involved in boxing for a long time, if the fight's going your way and everything you do works and you're not really in any danger and you're looking good, when you go back to your corner, you don't essentially need a Cornerman. Then the Cornerman is just kind of there to give you a drink and wash your mouth guard. So you don't really need a Cornerman. Anybody could do it. But when a Cornerman becomes absolutely vital is when the fight is going against you, when you're getting hit by punches that you didn't see coming, when you can't really work out what's going on, you're in trouble, you're going down, you're on the ropes. That's when you need a Cornerman. And that's when a good Cornerman can be the difference between staying in the fight and losing the fight. So we thought the name, the Cornerman, worked quite well. So we went out to do some crowdfunding. So we thought, we've got this idea, will it fly? We actually spoke to a few people who, I'm glad to say, a couple of people we trusted to speak to, ex-head of the Samaritans and head of suicide prevention NHS strategy in Oxfordshire, are both now trustees of the Cornermen Charity Board. But we went out to them because we knew them, and they said, look, it sounds great. If you can get it off the ground, it'd be great. So the problem was now we had an idea that we thought would work and that other people thought might work, but we didn't have any money to make it work. So we went out there and we started to crowdfund. We decided to do a 30-day crowdfunding thing. And part of the reason we're here today is to say thank you to a lot of people. And I'd just like to single out Steve Beattie, because I put this up, we're going to do this, and the man just said, come in the office, gave me £1,000 in cash straight away. So that was like within seconds of putting this out there. Which is kind of what you need, because you think, actually, do you know what, this might actually work. We're asking people to give us money and maybe they will. So we went out and we did this 30-day crowdfunding thing. At the end of it, we'd come up with £12,000. So we had enough basically to run the service for 3 months. And so Steve then took the plunge and gave up his job at Emmaus. We only had 3 months' money for him, but obviously we were just hoping that we would carry on after that.
A big thing for me was because I lost my dad a few years ago. and to help raise some of the money. Don't know if you remember, but he left me a watch, and we were just a bit short.
Yeah.
And my mum said, "Why don't you sell your dad's watch?" So for me, that to be stood here now, because there's always a risk. You're like, it's my dad's watch, and it was worth a couple of grand. And so for me as well, part of that, just to mention my dad, who was my original kind of, him and my granddad, Cornermen. So that was, for me as well, a massive moment for that. And because that's a bit of a risk to go.
Well, I think also because I remember you saying, I'm going to sell the watch. And I was a bit like, I don't sell the watch.
Yeah.
That's a bit, because if it doesn't work and if whatever happens. And I know you said to your mum, and she said, why don't you sell the watch? And you said, I don't want to sell the watch because Dad gave it to me and et cetera, et cetera. And then she said, but that's what he'd wanted you to do.
Yeah.
He'd have wanted to back you in this. So that's what he'd have wanted you to do.
There's
so yeah.
Watching a great football team to support.
We'll get onto that. We'll get past that. So we got the money. We started the service, and almost straight away it kind of took off. I mean, it's worth saying as well why we decided to start that service and why we thought that we had an idea around that. And also when we looked at the figures, death by suicide is the leading cause of death for men under 50. Suicide actually peaks for men between 50 and 54, and it's quite strong up to 64. It's just that it's not the leading cause of death after that, because other things are knocking you off the perch. But
so poetic, John. That's why I do the support.
I mean, if you want to put that in scope, 3/4 of all suicides are men. Since the year 2000, which for people of my age is like yesterday, over 90,000 men have died by suicide in England and Wales. So that's Wembley Stadium full. You get in over a football team a day.
12 men a day.
12 men a day, yeah. It's kind of a pressing need. And we also had people coming in here who had made attempts and hadn't really been able to give anything by an overstretched NHS. They'd just been told that they'd be signed on to a Zoom call in a while. The other thing that we really thought was we could strongly do was we thought we could try and reach people that are not engaging with services. Now, 8 out of 10 people who die by suicide are not engaging with any mental health services. So that's really the thing that we thought we could get through, and we could maybe make a dent in. We could get to those people who are not accessing traditional services. So, and I think our figures do speak for themselves. Actually, we are able to do that, and we are able to make a difference. But when we started the service, it was pretty much straight away there was a take up. There was a strong take up, and one of the things was that as soon as there was a take up, it's people talking to other people. And there's nothing more powerful than your friend. Ironically enough, when somebody's talking about their mental health or talking about different things, having your friend say, go down to this guy because he really helped me out, is much more powerful than any doctor or any sort of figures you see or read about. So, there's been a sort of a word of mouth about that's been quite strong. And the service is operating now.
Well, I can give some... Yeah, so...
Well, I think it'd be great if you also... I think what would be good for people to say, we say it's a great service and it's working, but why? So what do we do? What do we do when people come down, and what are the sort of things that you see?
Well, I think, we stood here 4 years ago, like we say, a lot of things were taking a chance. And I think if you asked each person who comes along to the Cornermen, they would say they get a different thing. I think it's different for each individual. Some guys, we offer to do pads or to have a talk of coffee. I think you would find that some people would say that this is what I get from the Cornermen. So I think because we can be person to person, we can sort of tailor it to what someone wants to do to make it easier for them to talk. Now, if people are interested, what we listen out for when someone comes to us is we talk. There's a lot of humour involved in the Cornermen. We love humour, and there's lots of talking and lots of conversations, but what we're really listening out for is we're listening out for people to talk about feelings of isolation and loneliness, but within that can be kind of grief, loss of job, loss of relationship. Obviously a big one we see is lack of access to children, lots of issues in the kind of anything that makes all people on the autistic spectrum or that feel like they're masking, don't quite connect. We're listening out for feelings of, this is a really, it's not popular, that's the wrong word, common, is a feeling of burdensome, that people, they feel a burden to the people they love, and so they have in their head that, if I wasn't around, they'd be better off without me. They wouldn't see it now, but in the long run, that's how they would be. How we all talk to ourselves in our heads is very important, and all of us, if we can, what goes on in someone's head, you never quite know until you ask what's going on in anyone's head. And then we have, we call it the F-it button that we look out for. It's obviously, there's a different word for it, but there's children around. And that's just if people don't care anymore, their behaviour becomes that they might take lots of drugs or do anything that kind of says I don't care. And then we're listening out for people sort of saying that they just need a break. They need a break from their thoughts. They need a break from their feelings. They feel trapped. And then when people start to think, how am I going to get away from that? So that's what we're listening out for. And the guys, I have to say that the guys who come along, it's one of the great things has been meeting so many amazing people. Our youngest is 18, our oldest is we've seen is 79. And there's such a variety of, there's amazing wealth and talent and brilliant humour and artistic, there's a real, these guys are a real pleasure to also be around. But the good, also we stood here 4 years ago not knowing if anyone would come through the door. Now we've got a slightly different problem. So we have had in those 4 years 350 men approach and use the service, and the majority of them have come through self-referral. So that is that they've come from themselves, or their mates told them to come, or we've had fathers and sons. We've had so now we are average in around 5 men a day, and 8 interventions a day, because we do an hour's talk sometimes, or an hour's pads with someone, but then I'm just going to wave at Nav. Hi, Nav at the back, sorry. And then we do 8 interventions, because it can just be a message, a WhatsApp call that someone needs. It doesn't always need to be an hour. Sometimes someone just needs, I need to rant, Steve. Just let me rant. And then they can put it, and off they go. So I think from our perspective of a kind of suicide prevention, men's mental health, is that we've been able to thankfully have an impact via word of mouth, which, as John mentioned, is the golden bullet to what we're trying to do, because we need people going and saying, no, it's all right to talk, and there's this stigma around mental health, because I think people get mixed up with what mental health. We're actually really helping each other through life most of the time, and there's tough stuff that comes along, and the analogy of the Cornermen and the fight is so, where we've got to. We're at this stage now, and we were a CIC when we first started. Now we're an official charity, and so we are now been able to fundraise, and we're looking to bring someone in to help me, both with admin and with support and stuff. So that's what the trustees are looking at, because obviously it's unsustainable as we get more and more people, as we don't really even advertise much at the moment. Once we we can start thinking of other ideas, about how we promote, how we reduce the stigma in our area, and we're going to get a new vehicle soon, and that's been quite. So the money from that has come from a young lad's family who died by suicide recently. He was only 17, so he wasn't able to use the Cornermen service, unfortunately. But and there was no sign that he was going to die by suicide, and I knew the family. But they fundraised in his memory, and both his granddad and his school friends, and they've raised enough money. So we're now currently looking for a car, and we're going to name the car after him. We're going to call it Ollie, and so the family know that Steve and Ollie will go up and collect other people struggling, and that's taught us. So some of the other stuff that's gone on through this is that we didn't really see coming, is that we went to Larkmead to speak to the lads, that we were asked to go in and do that, and that seemed to go well. So, and we've started doing talks as a way of raising money, and that took us into Oxford University. So John will tell people that we're now Oxford University lecturers. He doesn't like to exaggerate.
It's the truth.
Yeah, and there's been other businesses, and so that's an area where we will be pushing to, because that will be another area of income. So we've done very well really, and I hope that what we really did was repay that faith that people gave us like 4 years ago. Like John mentioned, people like Steve and the people at South Moreton Boxing Club who put their hand in their pocket and just trusted us. And we're so grateful that to do that, and we hope that we're repaying that trust. And what I think was really nice about the Cornermen is it feels like a real community, action that we hope could be replicated elsewhere, where it does feel that the community identified a problem, there were some people that said, "Oh, me and John, that we could maybe do something," and then the local community donated and they support, and it's really and continue to support us. And now there's people that like Steve Sarnason and Stuart, who's Steve, who are now sponsoring us a month, so that's a regular source of income. So all this kind of stuff, and we've had grants and donations. Didcot Powerhouse Fund really backed us, and so now we've where our reputation now is good, and in terms of suicide prevention, we're seen as best practice. So all in all, hopefully that what we did was the right thing to do, John.
Yes, well, it was. We're going to pray to start with, but I mean, thanks to us, the support of a community like this, the support of you, is why we've been able to do what we do. So we really appreciate it, and it's kind of onwards and upwards now. Like I say, we are an official charity. We've got a great board of trustees with loads of expertise and experience that help and feed into that. It's a bit it's a bit different to just me and Steve kind of winging it. Now we're kind of got to be a bit more grown up, but we hope that's going to give us the platform that we need to grow the service. And so we just wanted to get you here to say thank you. We really appreciate it. Cheers, guys. And one strange thing about the service is that we have a board of trustees, and that in that board there's 3 bands, because there's the Cornermen band.
I knew we'd mention it eventually.
There's Matt, who's in the Samurai 7, and Steve, who is in Through the Covers, who are going to play next. So there you go. We're rock and roll.